Psychological traps that lead to unethical behavior. This presentation is based on the work of Hoyt and Hershey, the ethical executive. Have you ever noticed that those who proclaim that they would never do anything unethical are those who are caught committing unethical acts? The best way to prevent committing unethical acts when you are an ethical person is to understand your own psychological traps. We all have them. And whether we attribute our behavior to nature or nurture, our self-awareness helps us avoid situations that could lead us to act unethically. Which ones might present problems for you? Primary traps. In the next few slides, we will examine the main traps that pull us in, the traps that trick us into illegal or unethical transgressions. Obedience to authority. As children, we are primed to obey our parents. Our survival depended on it. In school, that conditioning continued. Blind obedience to authority means following orders without question. The stronger the authoritarian structure of an organization, the more the members are primed to be obedient and not to challenge their leaders. In such an authoritarian environment, it is difficult to disobey a manager who demands that you do something unethical. Small steps. Initially, we may think obeying an order from our boss to do something unethical that is relatively minor is harmless. If our boss increases little by little the magnitude of the transgressions we are being asked to do over a long period of time, we can become desensitized to our own unethical behavior. Competition. Competitiveness is the desire to be better, stronger, and more powerful than the other, no matter what, even if one has to act unethically to get there. It is a zero-sum game, a desire to beat the other, no matter the consequences to others. Primary traps. Sidestepping responsibility. Indirect responsibility. Hoyt and Hershey used the example of civil servants in Germany who were willing to do clerical work for the Holocaust. They saw themselves as doing paperwork, not exterminating Jews. When our sense of responsibility is weakened, we are more apt to behave unethically. Faceless victims. In a world of international corporations, anonymity is the order of the day, imposed through the use of email, automated voicemail prompts, and video conferencing. When victims of corruption are faceless, it is easier to do them harm. Lost in the group. Being involved in a group often diminishes our concerns of being held personally responsible when the group as a whole acts unethically. When we make group decisions, our individual accountability is weakened. When the group is responsible, individual members of the group feel less at fault. Primary traps of self-interest. Self-interest needs include acquiring food, shelter, clothing, money. These satisfy our innate drives of hunger, thirst, and pleasure. Trap 7. Tyranny of goals. We can be inspired by our goals to succeed, to climb the corporate ladder, to achieve status and recognition, but our goals can also drive us. Goals can become all-important. We can move too fast, take shortcuts, do anything to reach our goals. Another reason our goals drive us is that we believe achieving them will make us happy. Money. We all say money can't buy happiness, but deep down we believe it can. Our yearnings create less satisfaction in our lives by what we call the dissatisfaction gap. That is the gap between your current salary and what you want. Conflicts of interest. In general, the conflicts of interest that trap most companies are between the interests of the management and those of the shareholders. Additional primary traps. Trap 10. Conflicts of loyalty. At times, it's hard to choose between being loyal to our managers or to our coworker friends. At other times, we are caught in the middle of being loyal to our families and the demands of our corporation. Conflicts of loyalty are similar in many ways to conflicts of interests. In both traps, we're pulled in opposing directions by two conflicting influences. In contrasting the two, conflicts of interest tend to be narrower in focus. It tends to focus on money and the conflict between company's management and its shareholders. Conformity. Because of the desire to conform, it takes courage to be the one who dissents first. Conformity pressure. Coworkers and especially managers can use sarcasm and punishment to enforce conformity. Employees who break conformity by not following established norms or who play devil's advocate during a team discussion often meet with sharp opposition. Additional traps. Don't make waves. Healthy decisions are made by debate and critical analysis. The fog of false consensus maintains and strengthens the trap of conformity. Self-enhancement. Most of the time, we rate ourselves in comparison to others as above average. We perceive ourselves as better than the average person. We do this to feel good about ourselves. The question is, how can we all be above average? The central theme of Hoyt and Hershey's book is that the situation often does overpower our ethical values. It's possible then that the more we believe we are above average ethically, the more likely we are to fall prey to the situational traps that Hoyt and Hershey describe. Time pressure. Good ethics take time. In corporations for which time is money, ethical awareness is diminished because of time pressure. Time pressure can diminish our awareness of others in need. Primary traps continued. Decision schemas. Creating schemas or scripts is a way our brains organize information. A schema is a unit of past information that gives us rules and expectations about a particular theme. We have schemas for everything. We have schemas within schemas. They are automatic ways of responding based on the past. They solidify over time and encompass situations that are common. The problem is that most ethical dilemmas are uncommon, novel situations, liable to be excluded from habitual styles of screening. Enacting a role. We all know what the bottom line is in business: making money. If you're an executive, your role is to push your workers to produce quicker, more efficiently, and less expensively. This role is an automatic, reflective response. When we put on our executive hats, we become that role. Power. Power is another influence that fortifies our role reflex. Undervaluing the work of their employees, coupled with poor empathy, makes it painless for managers to enact their functional bottom line role. They can push harder and harder for their workers to produce quicker, more efficiently, and less expensively. The result can lead to unrealistic expectations that in turn lead employees to take shortcuts, that is, act unethically. Throughout history, moral justification has been used to sanction acts of evil. For instance, torture has been sanctioned using the justification that the information will help the torturer's good cause. Obligation is a particular type of justification. Obligation can often be a justification that results from obedience to authority.